Ah, weep gonna weep mini bong. And welcome back to the Justin Network. I'm Justin, your host. This is the Prime Universe Legacy Knockout. And we're not talking about this kind of knockout, or this kind of knockout, but this knockout. Yes, this is our very first figure from the Prime Universe. And that's going to be because I haven't watched very much of Transformers Prime, to be honest with you. I know I need to. I didn't really ever watch it before because I always thought the animation wasn't that good. Didn't like the way it looked. But I've heard it's absolutely fantastic. So I'm definitely going to check it out in the next little bit. But Knockout here, I got from onemore.com. I think it was a third-party seller. But he was on sale at such a good price, I couldn't pass it up. I had to give him a grab and see what he's got going on here. See if he was worth this price tag. Maybe there was a reason he was going for such a low price tag. And we are going to figure out if there is a reason. Investigative journalism style. And here is your Decepticon medic from Transformers Prime. Now, we're going to start doing some of his spinning around, seeing what he can and can't do with his movements. I can already tell you, just by getting him out of the box, his joints are very loose, as you can see. He moves around, he does a lot of stuff that I don't necessarily like. He's not wanting to stay put very well. They're very loose. Now, that possibly could be part of just my copy, but I think that's going to be an all copies kind of thing that he's got going on with him. Now, this is a heavy retool of the Studio Series Jazz figure from the 86 movie, right? That's a figure I would like to get at some point in time review on this channel, but he is a heavy retool from that figure. It's funny though, because when you look at his early concepts of what he was gonna look like, he also originally, which I'm gonna put it on the screen, there's the early concepts, he did look like Jazz there as well, but in a completely different way. He looked like the G1 Jazz toy, funny enough, instead of the Studio Series 86 Jazz. Isn't that weird? Like, why are we basing everything about Knockout here on Jazz's design? It just seems funny. Multiple different Jazz toys. It's like, yeah, Knockout. I don't know. It's weird that they did that. But yeah, they used the Jazz here. They were going to use the, not were going to use, but it just looked heavily influenced from the G1 Jazz. So he cannot, as you can see, well, I reckon he can do a full Jean-Claude Van Damme. Yeah, he's got that. It looks like he's wearing boots, by the way. You see that? Looks like he's wearing him some boots, which he is about his looks a little bit. This is a fashionable fella, and I do think he looks pretty cool. Looks pretty good. The coloring is pretty nice. This backpack here, a little heavy. A little heavy. The front end comes out just a little more than I would like, I would say. But he's weighted down a little bit by that backpack, and it makes him want to have just a little bit of a lean back. But like I said, that's partly because his joints are pretty loose as well. The backpack doesn't come off too awful bad. The back overall isn't really that terrible or as bad as I would have expected. This right here is my big issues with the back. Those empty spots there are huge. I wish there was something that flipped over to cover that up. I'm guessing that there's probably an upgrade kit there for that. But yeah, this is Knockout in all his glory. Let's check out his accessories he came with, because he did come with an accessory or two. So came with this and this. So this is going to be an Energon rifle here, right? For blasting at the Autobots. This is gonna be a shield. Supposed to go right there. Yeah. He's blocking the blast with his shield, which, I mean, technically ain't gonna block a lot with that. I mean, it's pretty tiny.
That's what she said.
But you get it. And they got the long rifle. That's pretty cool. Like that. Don't like that. Just didn't really think about that earlier when I was looking at it. But don't like that big hole there. Never a big fan of that. Sure, there's upgrade kits to cover it. But wish Hasbro would just cover that themselves. But not only do we have this rifle and this shield, they also can do this number where the shield will plug into the side of the rifle. If you want to do it that way, it'll go in on either side and it'll plug in like that. Okay, right. Then also they can combine and turn into this spear here, right? Pretty cool. It'll plug in like that for him to hold it in that way, that manner. By the way, where they plug in together like that, it is super tight and you kind of have to force it together and it feels like it's gonna break. I'm actually not pushing it all the way in, I don't think, and that's because I really don't want to break it. And it really feels like it's gonna break, so I'm not fooling with that. But like I said, that is the way it's got designed for him to hold. I think that looks really silly. You want it to be where he can hold it right here, but the hand doesn't open and it can't slide in any way. So to me, that looks a little silly. I guess it's a little bit creative on a way that makes it look like he's holding it, I guess kind of the way he's supposed to, without actually being able to. But I really wish they could have designed it some way so he could have held it from like right here. Or just some way different, I don't know. It being like that, it's creative, but it just, I don't know. Not a huge fan of this whole spear and shield thing. I mean, I don't mind the rifle, and I don't mind the shield, and I don't mind the spear if this would go in better and had a better way for him to hold it, but just not a big fan of his accessories necessarily in all means. You know what? I got to fiddling, and I actually think that it's supposed to go in this way. And it actually fits in a lot better this way. And it's not feeling like, oh, a big issue to force it in and stuff. But what's funny is the way I did it initially was the way it was in the instructions. Because I looked at it to make sure I was doing it right. And I think this is actually the way it needs to be. Because it fits better. And let's see. Yes, it's going to plug in right there. I swear the other way is the way the instructions showed though. But that is the way I'm going to do it, is this way. Because it fits better. It's going to plug in back there for storage, which looks okay-ish, I guess. You can't see it super good from your all's angles. But you see he's not wanting to stay very steady, but you can kind of see there. I don't think it looks the best there. But he does have that storage there for him in bot mode if you so choose and you like the way it looks. How about while he's in bot mode, we go ahead, measure him out. From the bottom of his foot to the top of his head, he's going to be about 5.5 inches. Pretty darn close to that. His width, we're going to go from forearm to forearm, is going to be about 3 1/4 inches. Pretty darn close. Let's look at his spear here. Lengthwise from the tip to the other end is going to be about 4 3/8 inches. And how about we do each individual? Blaster rifle is going to be slightly under 3 inches. And the shield part will be almost, I'm going to say 1 3/4 inches. Pretty close, pretty close. Now, it's time to transform him. Check out his alt mode, see what he's got going on there. Alright, and here is Knockout in his alt mode, in his vehicle mode. This red car is looking pretty dang awesome if you ask me. I like the way it looks a lot. Get you a good look here at this Decepticon symbol. But he's got that yellow on his wheels. He's got those designs you can see on the sides. It's got a pretty good look. I actually like this quite a bit so far in this aspect of the way it's looking. It's time though.
Pizza time.
For a big test to see the roll test. Okay. So I will say, it rolls, but not very well. Some of the wheels get hung. I think has a little bit to do with this part, right? By the way, one thing I noticed while I was transforming him, I don't think I had him completely transformed right. When I say I mean Hasbro. Because the way he came in the box, there was a couple things. I know this was unfolded like that instead of fold up. And I did that before showing you all it and everything. But I think something with the legs was wrong as well. We'll see when we get him back in his vehicle mode and I take a better look at it. But let's look at where his weaponry can go here for him while he's in this alt mode. So, his rifle can stick in right there on top, or you could pop it in on the sides. He's got these little holes on both ends. Looks better on top in my opinion, right? So that's gonna go there. You can stick his shield, which could be a blaster, either way you want to do it, right there on the sides, and that fits a lot better there on the sides than the rifle did, I feel. Let's see how it looks on the top there. Not great, not terrible. I mean, that's okay. I think I like it better the other way, but gives you some options. That's cool. Accessory storage is always good. But yeah, looking pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. This is a cool looking car. It's funny in my opinion how well Legacy did with the vehicle modes of the Decepticons, man, because we just did Wild Rider last week and I really liked the way it looked as well. Wasn't necessarily a huge fan of it because, you know, I had a lot of issues with his wheels, but it looked pretty darn cool. So you could also put it together like that. I think that's your best bet. I think that looks probably the best for storage while he's in his vehicle mode. I don't know. You know what? That's probably pretty close to it being apart and the shield being on one of the sides. But there's your different options for accessory storage while he's in his vehicle mode. Think it looking pretty darn good. On the bottom, not terrible. I mean, it doesn't look great down here, but all things considered, I think that's pretty solid. I do wish that didn't go quite as far down. I think that would help with his rolling a good little bit. I think it keeps his back tires off the ground a little too much, but feels like there's something that keeps his front. This part right there comes down too far and it's keeping his front tires off the ground. Yep, that's what's doing that on there. So there's issues with the rolling. He can roll better than Wild Rider, so I'll take it. But let's measure him out while he's in his alt vehicle mode here. From end to end, he's gonna be about 4 3/4 inches. Yeah, 4 3/4 inches, I'm gonna say. Pretty darn close. From the width point of view, it's gonna be 2 3/8 inches. Let's go ahead and measure his height. Why not? We don't usually measure the height of the vehicle modes, but let's do it. So, not counting his weapon, he's gonna be about probably 1 3/8 inches. Pretty close to that. Counting the weapon, it's gonna be closer to 2 1/4 inches. Pretty darn close to that. But yeah, so I mean, would say I'm not disappointed in this alt mode. I like it. I think they did pretty well with it. I do think it's not a bad looking mode. Let's put him back in his bot mode though and get him measured up against some of the other Transformers we've messed with recently, do some rankings, and that'll wrap up this video. Don't leave yet though. Rankings, in my opinion, best part of the video, still to come. Alright, we got him transformed back. So, the thing that was wrong, and I see it now, these were already transformed as if it was supposed to be in car mode when it came out of the box. And I did not realize that when I was reviewing it earlier. So that's what it's actually supposed to look like. Apologize about that. This back, I've been messing around with it a lot. Earlier, it would stay to there. Now, it will only go to there, and I'm not sure why. These back here are really weird. They want to pop off. All of that's really weird with the way it transforms, in my opinion. It doesn't feel like it's doing what it's supposed to do in the right sense. But, let's go ahead, measure them up against some of the other Transformers we messed with recently on this channel. First off, one we probably wouldn't usually put him up against in height, but I just think it's fun. Let's do it. Pocket Toys Ramjet. As you can see, he's got a little bit of height on old Ramjet here. Not to scale. This would not be accurate scaling. And here, his legacy mate in Skullgrin. You can see how they kind of stack up against each other in height. Pretty darn close. They are the same class, so it would make sense. And then last but not least, G2 Toxitron Grimlock. There's kind of the height difference there for them. That's a big difference, but there is a whole class of size in between them normally. So that would make sense why the size difference is so extreme. Alright, so in rankings we start off with functionality, as always. And in functionality we're going to be talking about his posing, his articulation, his accessories, the storage for his accessories, and all that good stuff. So, I gave him a 7. Maybe that's a little generous. I don't know. He's either a 6 or a 7, I would say. I went with 7, though. I think in your record book, you maybe will go with a 6. That's okay if you do. We're different people. We have different opinions. But, I think that, you know, articulation, he was pretty good. There wasn't a lot that you would want other than maybe spinning at the wrists. A little more with his feet. Besides just that, he can't really do any kind of move. You know what? I missed that. There you go. Look, his feet can rock. There you go. Rock-a-rhyme, it's tricky. Rock around, that's right, on time, it's tricky. But that's cool that I just noticed that. Apologize for that, not noticing that earlier in the video. But he gets that 7. I think that's a easy now. He's a 7, not a 6, right? There you go, guys. I convinced you. But his accessories were pretty good. I like the functionality of them. They got a lot of different options. They got good storage in both modes, or solid storage in both modes. I like that. I appreciate that. I'm taking that into account. Giving him a 7. I think this is where he did his best at, probably. Next up, we have transformation. Remember, transformation is going to be rating how hard he is to transform, how easy he is to transform, creative, fun, all that good stuff when it comes to his transformation. I personally am giving him a 6. Wasn't too bad, wasn't too hard. There was a couple little spots that I really had to look at the directions and make sure I was doing it right. Specifically was with the way this turns. It's a double turn where you have to make sure this doesn't turn the second time. If that makes sense. If you go back and watch it, the speed up in it, I think you'll see what I'm talking about. But I think that was on the creative side. I did kind of like that part. There was definitely some tricky parts, I guess you could say. It's tricky. But it could have been better, could have been worse. I think he deserves that 6. Lastly, it's going to be his appearance. That's going to be his likeness to the character. How good he looked in his bot mode, how good he looked in his alt mode. And this is where he struggled the most. I'm giving him a 5. I'm not saying this doesn't look good and cool, because I think this looks pretty solid. Thought the car looked pretty darn good, actually. But this is not really what Knockout looks like in Transformers Prime. This is the Prime Universe Knockout, right? So he needs to look like he did in the show. The car looks decently like. This part's definitely different. But the bot mode looks very different. That's the issue with putting these Prime figures in the Legacy line. They're going to reuse molds, and they have very unique looks in Prime because the animation is so interesting. It's hard to turn it into a toy in the first place, especially if you're just reworking a mold that you've already used for another figure. So I'm not going to hate on it too awful bad. Like I said, I think this looks pretty cool, but appearance is about a big part on how much he looks like the character he is portraying, and he doesn't do that very well, especially in his bot mode. So I reckon overall, you could say this is a bit of a mediocre figure.
Mediocre?
I think, you know, he does some things he does pretty well, other things he doesn't do super well. I think if this was just a different interpretation of Knockout, that would help him a lot. But considering I'm supposed to be holding this to the Prime Universe version of Knockout, that's what hurt him overall. And he's just flimsy. He had some weird little things that were bugging me that I didn't love. He had some good stuff. As I said, don't want to give all hate on this channel, because that's not what I'm about. But overall, the figure could have been better. I think some of his issues is why he probably was going for such a low price tag that I was talking about earlier. But yeah, overall, I think it's alright. You decide if you would spend money on this. It's your money, obviously. I'm not upset that I bought this. It gave me a video, which I'm always happy about that. But I think he's a nice character that I think I would really like if I went and watched all through Prime. I think I'm going to like Knockout quite a bit. So I think it's cool to have a figure of him. And getting it at the price I did, for me, bang is worth the buck. Up to you if you think the same thing. But anyways, guys, I just want to say thank you again for your liking, for your comments, subscribing. Please keep it up. Really helps me out. I really appreciate it. And that's going to wrap up this video. You know, I just really appreciate y'all coming back over and over again. And next Tuesday, there's going to be another video on this channel, just like there is every Tuesday. But anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap up this video now with a until all are one. Peace.